princess fell in love with poor boy at the cinema gate, not knowing he's a billionaire's son. The princess had never heard her own name whispered in fear before, not until the night she ran away. It started with a slammed door and the sound of rain against the palace walls. Emily, the only daughter of King Raymond, ripped off her diamond crown and stuffed it under her bed. She wanted one night, just one, where no one bowed, no one guarded, and no one decided her life for her. So she slipped through the servant gate, wearing jeans, a hoodie, and her mother's old sneakers. For the first time in her life, she walked down a crowded street where no one knew her face. And that was when she saw him. He was standing outside the local cinema, staring at the glowing movie poster with the saddest kind of hope. His clothes were old, his shoes were worn, but his eyes burned like something fierce and free. A boy who looked like the world had forgotten him. But he had not forgotten his dreams. "Got a ticket?" she asked, trying to sound casual. He smiled, a little embarrassed. "No, sold out. I guess I will just imagine the movie from out here." Something inside her cracked open. The princess, who had everything, felt small, beside the boy who had nothing but a dream. Without thinking, she said, "Come in with me." He looked at her like she was joking. "Are you serious?" "Yes," she said, holding up 2 tickets she had just bought. "I hate watching movies alone." And just like that, 2 strangers walked into the dark, one hiding a crown, the other hiding a fortune. They shared popcorn. They shared silence. They shared something neither of them had words for yet. When the lights came on, she felt like she had just lived a story she did not want to end. Outside, he turned to her and said softly, "Thank you for the ticket." She smiled, but her heart was pounding, because even she did not know what she had just started. The night smelled like rain and secrets, and the princess did not know the boy standing beside her was not poor at all. He was the son of the man who owned half the kingdom, but for now he just smiled like a nobody, and she smiled back like she did not belong to a throne. The movie started, but Emily was not watching the screen. She was watching him. The boy beside her laughed at the dumbest jokes, clutched his popcorn like it was treasure, and wiped his hands on his jeans after every handful. He was not polished like the people in her world, and that was what made him real. When the hero on screen ran into danger, the boy whispered, "He's going to make it." Emily smiled. "Are you sure?" "Yes," he said. Good guys always do. For a moment she forgot she was a princess. She was not Emily of the royal house. She was just a girl in a dark room, laughing next to a boy who did not treat her like glass. Halfway through the movie, the power went out. The screen went black. People groaned. But the boy just leaned back in his chair and said, "I guess life is giving us an intermission." She giggled. "Do you always talk like that?" "Only when I am trying to sound cool," he said, flashing a grin that could melt winter. The lights flickered back on. The movie continued, but now their hands brushed in the popcorn tub, and neither of them moved away. When the movie ended, they sat there a little longer, letting the crowd leave first. Emily did not want the night to end. Outside, the rain had stopped. Street lights shimmered on wet pavement. "What is your name?" he asked. Her heart froze. She could not tell him. If he searched it, if he knew, she would lose this small, wild freedom. So she lied softly. "Emma." He nodded, smiling like he believed her. "I am Jake." "Nice to meet you, Jake." "Nice to meet you, Emma." They walked under the neon lights, laughing about the movie's bad ending. He told her about fixing cars for extra cash. She pretended to work at a bookstore. Every lie felt too sweet to stop. When they reached the cinema gate, she said, "Maybe I will see you again." He shrugged, but his eyes said he wanted to. If life is kind, maybe. She turned away, her royal driver waiting at the corner, unseen. Jake shoved his hands into his pockets, whispering, "Emma, so whoever you are, you feel like home." And above them, the broken cinema sign flickered, as if the stars themselves were winking. The sky broke open just as they reached the corner. Rain came down fast, thick and cold, washing the world in silver. Jake laughed, holding his jacket over both their heads. "I guess life is giving us another intermission," he said, squinting through the downpour. Emily laughed too, louder than she had in years. The sound felt strange on her tongue, like it had been locked away behind palace walls. They ran to the nearest bus stop, splashing through puddles, breathless and soaked. Her hoodie clung to her hair, His jacket was dripping, but somehow the night had never felt more alive. "Emma," he said softly when they finally caught their breath. "Yes?" He looked at her, eyes bright under the flickering streetlight. "Do you ever feel like you are living someone else's life?" The question hit her heart like thunder. She swallowed hard. "Every single day." He nodded as if he understood, and maybe somehow he did. "I want to change mine," he said. "Someday I will build something big. Not for money, not for fame. Just something that is mine. You know?" She smiled, even though her throat ached. "You will." He turned to her, his face close enough for her to see the raindrops on his eyelashes. "Then promise me something," he whispered. "What?" "When I do, when I make it, wherever you are, you will come find me. We will watch another movie. Not as strangers this time." The rain fell harder, drumming around them like applause. She wanted to tell him everything, that she was not who he thought, that she had a name that could break this fragile magic between them. But instead she said softly, "I promise." He smiled, the kind of smile that could light up a life. "Then it is a deal." Lightning flashed across the sky, and for a moment, she saw the world split in two, his and hers, and knew they could never fit together. But that did not stop her from hoping. When the bus finally came, he waved as it pulled away. She pressed her hand to the window, watching him disappear in the blur of rain. And that night, a princess and a mechanic's son made a promise that would change everything. The next morning, Emily woke to sunlight spilling across her royal bed, a cruel reminder that the night before had been real. Her hoodie was still damp, her sneakers muddy, her heart restless. "Your Highness, the king requests you for breakfast," said her maid, bowing low. Emily sighed. She slipped on her crown like a mask. The weight of it pressed down on her head, heavy as the lie she had told. At the palace table, her father spoke of trade deals and royal duties. Her mother smiled politely, never looking up from her tea. It was the same cold, quiet rhythm she had known her whole life. Except now, she had a secret burning under her skin. A boy with rain in his hair and dreams in his voice. That night she snuck back to the cinema gate. She told herself she was just going for a walk, but her heart knew better. She waited by the poster, watching the people pass, laughing couples, noisy kids. The smell of buttered popcorn thick in the air. But he did not come. Minutes turned to hours. The rain started again. Still no Jake. She almost turned away when a voice called softly, "I did not think you would actually show." Her heart jumped. He was there, wet hair, tired eyes, same crooked smile. "I thought you forgot," she said, hiding her relief. "I could not," he said. "You kind of owe me another movie." They walked together again, no tickets this time, just wandering down the street. She told him she liked stories, books, quiet places. He told her he liked engines, long drives, and the sound of freedom. "Where do you live?" he asked. She froze. Out of town. It is far." He nodded. "Figures. You talk like someone who does not belong here." She looked away. "Maybe I do not." He smiled. "Then maybe that is what we have in common." They sat on a park bench under the orange glow of a streetlight, saying nothing, afraid to break the spell. When the palace clock struck midnight in the distance, Emily stood quickly. "I have to go." "Wait, Emma, tell me your last name." She hesitated. The truth was on her tongue, but she could not. Not yet. So she whispered, "Just Emma," and disappeared into the night. Behind her, Jake watched, confused, and a little heartbroken. He did not know that the name she could not say could have ended everything. The next day, Jake could not stop thinking about her. Emma, the girl with the sad smile and the kind eyes. He went back to the cinema gate, hoping to see her again. But instead, he found something else, a phone. It was lying near the curb, wet from the rain, its golden case catching the light. He picked it up and froze. The back was not plain. It was engraved with a royal crest. He had seen that symbol before. Everyone had. It belonged to the royal family. Jake frowned, brushing mud off the edge. What the hell? The phone was locked, but when he pressed the power button, the screen lit up, and for a moment he saw her face. Her face, the same girl from the cinema. His stomach twisted. He sat down hard on the curb. She was not just some girl from out of town. She was the princess, the one whose picture was on every magazine, every newspaper. He laughed once, but it was not funny. "You have got to be kidding me." For a while he just sat there, staring at the phone like it was burning in his hands. The pieces clicked together. Her careful words, her fancy hoodie, the way she had flinched when he asked her last name. He had been falling for a lie. And yet, the memory of her laugh still made his chest ache. He could not be mad at her. Not really. He slipped the phone into his pocket. I guess I will just have to give this back. Princess. Meanwhile, in the palace, chaos was breaking loose. Guards searched every hallway. Servants whispered in fear. The queen sat pale and silent while the king barked orders. Emily stood in her room trying not to cry. Her phone was gone, and with it, her biggest secret. She imagined Jake finding it, opening it, knowing. Her hands trembled. No, no, no. A knock sounded at her door. Your Highness, said a guard, we have tracked your phone. It is in the lower city. Her heart stopped. She whispered to herself, please do not let it be him. But miles away, Jake was already walking toward the palace gates, her phone in his pocket, and 1,000 questions in his heart. Jake did not sleep that night. He kept staring at the golden phone on his table, the crest glinting in the lamplight like a warning. The royal symbol looked out of place in his tiny room with its peeling paint and humming refrigerator. He turned it over in his hands. Every instinct said to return it. Every heartbeat said to see her again. By morning, he had made up his mind. He was going back to the cinema gate. At the palace, Emily was a storm in silence. Her father's voice thundered through the halls. You were outside the walls alone? Do you understand what could have happened if the public had seen you? I am sorry, she whispered. The king's anger burned hot. Sorry does not fix what has been risked. We have reports your phone is in the city. Guards will retrieve it. Emily's heart squeezed. Please, let me go with them. Her mother shot her a warning look. Emily, do not make this worse. But she could not stop. It is not about the phone, it is about... She cut herself off before she said his name. Back at the cinema gate, Jake waited. The crowd changed faces. Laughter came and went, but she did not appear. Hours passed. He kicked at the pavement, feeling foolish. Maybe she is gone, he muttered. Maybe she was never real. He finally stood to leave when a convoy of black cars pulled up nearby. Men in suits stepped out, tall, stiff, scanning the street like hunters. Jake froze. Something about them screamed royal security. One of them was holding a photo, and it was her. Jake's pulse pounded. He backed away, ducking behind a pillar. The guard's voice was sharp over the radio. Still no sign of the phone. Keep looking. He slipped away before they saw him, heart hammering. He did not know why, but some small voice told him, if those guards found out he had the phone, they would bury him in questions he could not answer. So he took the long road home, clutching the phone tighter. And miles away, Emily stood at her window, watching the rain return. Somehow she knew he was out there, looking for her. Both searching for the same thing. Both terrified of what would happen when they found it. The sound of engines woke Jake before sunrise. He pulled open his window and watched as the mansion's driveway filled with black cars. His father was back, and that always meant trouble. Jacob. The voice boomed up the staircase like thunder. Breakfast now. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. The city thought the Kingsleys were perfect. Old money, clean suits, fancy smiles. But inside these walls, everything felt colder than the marble floors. Jake sat at the long table, across from his father, who did not even look up from his tablet. You have been in the lower city again, Mr. Kingsley said flatly. Jake did not answer. You think I do not know? His father's voice sharpened. I had your driver followed. Jake clenched his fists. It was just a cinema. I go there to breathe. You go there to embarrass me, his father snapped. Do you know how it looks when the son of one of the richest men in this country hangs around with street kids? Jake leaned back, smirking bitterly. Maybe it looks human. The older man's eyes hardened. You will take over Kingsley Motors one day. Start acting like it. Jake pushed back his chair. Then maybe I do not want to. His father stood, tall and furious. You will do as you are told. You carry my name. Jake's jaw tightened. Then maybe your name does not mean as much as you think. Silence. Heavy, final. Jake walked out before his father could speak again. Outside, the city buzzed below the mansion gates. Alive, messy, real. He pulled out the golden phone from his pocket, tracing the royal crest with his thumb. He had spent the night reading about the royal family, her face on 100 websites. Princess Emily Raymond. He whispered her name like a secret. Emily, the girl who had shared his popcorn, the girl who had laughed in the rain. She was not just from another world, she was another world. And he, the boy she thought was poor, was living a lie just as big as hers. He smiled sadly. I guess we are both hiding. That night, as he sat by the window, rain falling softly against the glass, Jake made a decision. He would return her phone himself, not as the poor boy she pitied, but as the man she never expected. 3 days passed before Emily heard from him again. She sat in her room, her golden phone replaced by silence. Every sound of footsteps in the hallway made her heart jump. Every message from her maid made her hope, and then ache again when it was not him. But that evening, a letter arrived. Not an email, not a royal envelope, a handwritten note, delivered by one of the palace guards. It said only 3 words, "Meet me tomorrow." There was no name, no address, only a small mark at the bottom, a car symbol, drawn in pen. Her breath caught. Jake. The next evening, Emily left the palace again, hidden under her hood. She followed the address written on the guard's note, her pulse racing the entire way. When she reached the place, she stopped in disbelief. It was not a cinema, it was a mansion. Huge glass walls glowing against the night sky, surrounded by shining cars. "What is this?" she whispered. A man in a black suit opened the gate. "Miss Emma? This way, please." Her steps were slow, hesitant. Every sound, the crunch of gravel, the hum of lights, echoed in her chest. Inside, a long table was set for 2. Candles flickered. Soft music played, and at the end of the table, Jake stood waiting. But not the Jake she remembered. He wore a dark suit, his hair was combed back, and his eyes, calm, confident, carried a truth she was not ready to face. "Jake?" she said quietly. He smiled gently. "I am sorry I did not tell you the truth." Her voice trembled. "Who are you?" He took a deep breath. "My name is Jacob Kingsley. My father owns Kingsley Motors." She froze. The name hit her like lightning. Everyone in the country knew that name. "So you are," she whispered. "Yes," he said. "The billionaire's son." The room went still. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. 2 liars standing face to face, each holding a secret that could shatter everything. "I thought you were poor," she said finally. "I thought you were free," he answered. Her chest tightened. "Why did you pretend?" He smiled sadly. "Because I wanted someone to see me, not my name." Tears stung her eyes. So did I. For the first time they both laughed, not from joy, but from the strange truth of it all. 2 people from the richest worlds in the country, both pretending to be poor, just to feel real. The candlelight flickered between them like a fragile heartbeat. Emily sat across from Jake, the weight of 1,000 unspoken words between them. The smell of roasted food and soft music filled the air, but neither of them could eat. "So this is your home," she said softly, glancing around. The walls were made of glass, and beyond them, the city lights stretched out like stars. Jake nodded. "It is my father's, not mine." She looked at him, her voice small. "You lied to me." He nodded again. "And you lied to me." The truth hurt, but somehow it also brought them closer. Jake leaned forward. "I did not mean to deceive you, Emily. I just wanted to be normal for once." Her eyes softened. "And I wanted to be seen as someone, not something." For a while they just looked at each other, understanding without needing words. Jake smiled faintly. "When I met you at that cinema gate, you looked like someone trying to run from the world." She lowered her eyes. "Maybe I was. Maybe I still am." He laughed quietly. "You are the princess. You could go anywhere." She looked up at him, a tear catching the light. "Except where I want to." Silence filled the space again, the kind that hums with truth. Then Jake stood and walked to the piano in the corner. He sat down, his fingers touching the keys like he was afraid of them. "Do you play?" she asked. He smiled. "A little. My mother taught me before she died." He began to play a soft tune, slow, simple, beautiful. It was a melody that seemed to speak everything they could not say aloud. Emily closed her eyes, letting the music wrap around her. For a few minutes, she was not a princess, and he was not a billionaire's son. They were just 2 lost souls finding each other in a world too big for them. When the song ended, Jake looked up and saw tears on her cheeks. "Emily," he said quietly. What are we going to do now? She wiped her face, smiling through the sadness. I do not know, but I do know this. I will remember this night for the rest of my life. Jake looked at her like she was the only person in the world. And maybe for that moment, she was. The morning after their secret dinner, the world exploded. Flashbulbs, headlines, voices shouting her name. Princess Emily caught leaving billionaire heir's mansion. The news spread like fire. Pictures of her stepping out of Jake's gate were everywhere. Online, on television, in the papers. Emily woke to chaos. Her phone rang nonstop, her mother's voice sharp and furious through the door. What have you done, Emily? She stood frozen, the headlines glowing from the tablet on her desk. Her heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. I just went for dinner, she whispered. Her mother's eyes flashed. With the son of our biggest political rival? Do you have any idea what this means? Emily tried to speak, but her voice broke. He is not like them. Her father entered, his face cold. You will stay inside the palace until we decide what to do. You have brought shame upon this family. Tears filled her eyes. Father, please. Enough, he said. Guards will escort you to your quarters. No more public appearances. No contact with anyone outside these walls. She felt the walls closing in. The gold and marble around her had never looked so much like a cage. Across the city, Jake faced his own storm. Reporters stood outside his gate, shouting questions, cameras flashing like lightning. Jake, how long have you been seeing the princess? Was this planned between your families? Is it true you are to be engaged? He pushed through them silently, ignoring the noise. Inside, his father waited, arms crossed. Do you realize what you have done? Mr. Kingsley barked. Now the palace will think I am behind this, trying to merge our families for power. Jake's voice was calm but shaking. I did not do this for you. I did this for her. His father's eyes narrowed. That girl will ruin everything you have. Everything we have. Jake stepped closer, jaw tight. Then maybe what we have is not worth keeping. For the first time, his father looked at him, really looked, and saw something new in his son's eyes. Defiance. Fire. That night, both Jake and Emily sat alone, separated by walls, by scandal, by 1,000 flashing lights, but thinking the same thought. Was it over before it even began? And somewhere deep inside, both of them knew this storm was only the beginning. The palace had never felt colder. Guards stood outside Emily's door like statues. She could hear voices echoing down the hall. Her father's deep anger, her mother's sharp tone, and the whisper of advisors arguing about what to do next. She sat on her bed, hands clenched in her lap, trying to breathe through the fear pressing against her chest. When the door finally opened, her father entered. He closed it behind him, the sound heavy as thunder. Emily, he said, his voice calm but sharp as glass, you have brought this family into disgrace. She stood slowly. I did not mean for any of this to happen. He stepped closer, eyes filled with disappointment. Intentions do not matter. What matters is the image of this family. The country is watching. The press is calling it a scandal. Her throat tightened. He is not what they think. Jake is. I know exactly who he is, the king interrupted. Jacob Kingsley, son of our oldest rival. His father has tried to outshine this family for years. Do you truly believe this boy's attention is a coincidence? Emily's voice broke. He did not know who I was either. He thought I was just Emma. The king's jaw tightened. Enough. You will not speak to him again. Tears filled her eyes. Father, please. He makes me feel alive. He makes me feel like myself. He looked at her with tired, stern eyes. You are not yourself. You are a princess. You belong to this crown, not to your heart. Her voice shook. So I am nothing but your title? Do not mistake freedom for foolishness, he said coldly. This will end now. He turned toward the door, but she called after him. What if I refuse? He stopped, his hand on the handle. Then you will lose everything that protects you. When he left, the silence that followed was louder than any scream. Emily sank to the floor, her tears falling fast. Her whole life had been decided for her. The way she spoke, the way she smiled, even the people she was allowed to love. But for the first time, she realized something powerful. If her father could take away everything except her heart, then maybe her heart was the only thing that truly belonged to her. That night the palace was silent. Too silent. Emily sat by her window, staring at the moonlight stretched across the gardens. Her father's words echoed in her head like a curse. You belong to this crown, not to your heart. She pressed her hand against the glass, feeling the cold bite of it. For the first time in her life, she understood what it meant to be trapped. Outside her door, 2 guards stood watch. Inside, her heart was breaking. She whispered to herself, "If I do not leave now, I never will." At the same time, across the city, Jake sat awake, watching the news. Every channel still talked about the scandal. Every headline twisted the truth. He had tried calling the palace, sending letters, reaching out to anyone who might let him explain. But no one responded. He whispered to himself, "I am not giving up on her." Then he saw it, a live broadcast from the palace gates. Reporters waiting, cameras flashing, and behind them, a glimpse of her window high above. He stood, grabbed his jacket, and headed out into the night. Back at the palace, Emily moved like a shadow. She had changed into plain clothes and tied her hair under a scarf. She had done this once before, sneaking out to the cinema. But this time it was different. This time she was not coming back. She waited until the guards changed shifts. Then, heart pounding, she slipped through the servants' hallway, down the marble stairs and out through the garden gate. The air hit her like freedom, sharp, cold, alive. She ran, past the hedges, past the golden fences, out into the city that smelled of rain and smoke. Her shoes slapped the pavement, her breath catching in the wind. Jake reached the edge of the palace grounds just as she appeared. Hood up, eyes wide, running like she was being chased by ghosts. He froze. For a second, neither of them moved. Then she saw him. "Jake," she breathed. He stepped forward, his voice breaking. "You came." She nodded, tears shining in her eyes. "I had to." He held out his hand. "Then come with me." No titles, no guards, no cameras, just us. For a heartbeat, the world went still. Then she took his hand. They ran together into the night, leaving behind everything that had ever kept them apart. Behind them, alarms began to sound. Guards shouted. Lights flashed. But Emily did not look back, because for the first time in her life, she was not running away from something. She was running toward something. The sound of footsteps broke the silence. Jake looked up sharply. For a moment, he thought it was just the rain dripping from the roof. But then, a beam of light flashed across the car's window. "Emily," he whispered, "someone is here." Before she could answer, a voice shouted, "Stop right there!" Dozens of guards surrounded the warehouse, their flashlights cutting through the dark. Red and blue lights flashed against the walls, and the air filled with the sound of engines and heavy boots. Jake's heart dropped. "They found us." Emily grabbed his hand. "We can still run." He shook his head. "There is nowhere left to go." The guards closed in. One of them pointed a gun. "Step out of the vehicle, now!" Jake opened his door slowly, raising his hands. Rain poured down, soaking his hair, dripping down his face. "Please," he said, "do not hurt her." Emily stepped out beside him, her hood falling back. Gasps spread through the guards as they saw her face. "It is the princess!" One of them shouted. She stood tall, even as tears filled her eyes. "If you want to take someone, take me." He did nothing wrong. A man in a dark coat stepped forward, the king's personal advisor. His expression was hard, but his voice was controlled. "Your Highness, your father is worried sick. Please come with us." Jake moved closer to her. "Emily, you do not have to." She looked at him, her eyes breaking. "I do." The guard separated them, pulling Jake away as she reached out for him. "Jake!" she screamed. "I am here!" He shouted back, struggling against their grip. "Emily!" The guards forced him to the ground. One of them grabbed his arm roughly. "You are under investigation for trespassing on royal property and abducting a member of the royal family." "That is not true," Emily cried. "He saved me." "He never—" But her words were drowned out by the sound of sirens and rain. They pushed Jake into a black car. Emily tried to follow, but a guard held her back. "Your Highness, please." "You must come with us." As the cars drove off in opposite directions, Emily pressed her hand against the window, tears streaming down her face. She whispered into the storm, "I will find you. I promise." And somewhere across the city, in the back of a dark car, Jake whispered the same words into the night. "I will wait for you." Morning came slowly, gray and heavy with rain. Emily stood at her balcony. The city stretched out below her like a dream fading into daylight. The storm had ended, but her heart had not. Jake was gone, arrested, branded as a criminal for loving her. Her father's words from the night before echoed in her mind. "You belong to this crown, not to your heart." But she knew now, her heart was stronger than any crown. Down in the palace courtyard, the press waited, Cameras, reporters, microphones, the whole world watching. Emily walked through the golden doors dressed not in her royal gown, but in a simple white dress. The guards hesitated but stepped aside. The king stood at the top of the stairs, his voice low. "What are you doing?" She faced him, trembling but unbroken. "What I should have done long ago. Tell the truth." Before anyone could stop her, she stepped in front of the cameras. "I have something to say," she began, her voice clear and steady. "The man you call a criminal is not one. He did not kidnap me. He saved me from a life where I could not choose who I am or who I love." The crowd went silent. Even the reporters lowered their microphones. She looked directly into the cameras. "His name is Jacob Kingsley. You know his father as a billionaire. But the truth is, Jake never wanted power or money. He wanted freedom, just like me." Her father's voice broke behind her. "Emily, stop this madness." She turned to him. "No, father. This is not madness. This is love. And I will not hide it anymore." For the first time, the king looked at her and saw not a child, not a princess, but a woman standing in her truth. His expression softened. He took a slow breath, then looked away, defeated. Later that day, Jake was released. When he stepped out of the station, Emily was waiting under the same rain that had brought them together. Neither of them spoke at first. They just stood there, smiling through tears, as if the whole world had gone quiet again, like the first night they met. "You really did it," Jake said softly. She nodded. "We both did." He stepped closer, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. "So what now?" Emily smiled. "Now we live, not as a princess and a billionaire's son, but as Emily and Jake." The rain began to fall again, gentle and endless. They held each other, standing in the storm, no crowns, no lies, no walls between them, just two hearts that had finally found freedom. And for the first time in their lives, they were not pretending.